storm. It's what we call gorgeous. Now listen to the smooth sounds. Before the thunder roll, before the clouds touch down to the ground. Ride for the storm. If I could make it do, I will. Baby girl said whenever you away, it just make me ill. She got so much love for the boy. I call her my mule. She called me the river boy. Meanwhile, me and my brethren in the convoy. DC defending, watching for the next exit. Eyes on my brother's shoulder. Wrong step, get your head split. Excuse me if I'm being extra. My mind militant, it'll never stop. Move like a captain, dressed like a special ops. I invested what the world threw away. These niggas like when trouble came, they just threw away. Broke away from the chains of mortality and made immortality in my morality. Without a care, this brother will never leave me stressed. All veins and food, you ain't never seen this type of fresh. A man can't stand it, you set a standard. You're set by the world, minds written on this banner. Gotta make sure, don't be sure. Best with no free, you ain't gotta pay a fee for. Was on the wrong path, had to make a detour. How you rise in the world, wanna watch you free fall. Create havoc in these lines that I rhyme like Dr. Frankenstein. With this knife by my side like Igor. YAHANNA what, nigga? Better watch the words coming through your teeth, boy. Cause words on the evil tongue just draw swords. They stakes in the grass. It's why I push this truth like lawnmowers. And it hurts to be in a world that's full of adversity. That's why my son will be a priest from his tertiary. Funny how this truth turn a man into Hercules. Yeah, I'm straight spitting this time. UPK got it from together like a fish fry. Fuck the pie, I want the whole bakery. These rappers tired, I swear they need to take a knee. But we gon' take the city while you catch your breath. And if my keys return, you'll get put to death. One body, one doctrine, and one aim. It was all for the gang till the flood came. Till the dubs came, we couldn't start again. 1969, we building this out again. Wait for the darkness, took a miss. Love niggas in the field, fuck them niggas on the fish. Now listen to the smooth sounds of the music. I ain't sure no trick. I'm in the six. I'm about to six. The picture's in the clear. I think I had an epiphany. My eyes was off. I'm wide awake. Thinking like, don't choose my face. Those times is straight. Coming out the picture, tripping. Don't choose gonna send my identity in. And let me serenity in. I'm bringing that energy in the blood. I'm bringing the negativity. And just hand out. Try to harm me. I'm a color of stability. It's what I heard for the back. You gon' do me back. Don't you gon' take my clap. Don't you gon' extend me. Don't you wanna have my back. I'm back. But the self just cat. Don't you gon' do me like that. You don't wanna go get back. You don't wrong. So wrong. You don't wrong. So wrong. Don't you gon' extend me. I don't wanna go get back. You don't wrong. So wrong. So wrong. Eyes up to the cloud, looking for a better day. Head for the stress, need another place for my heavy lady. They wanted road shit. Nobody ever told. Came up with a boss bitch. She ain't fly, sit in the living room. So ain't no time to crap. It's time to get it out of this bitch. This is part of the plot. I was just spilling the back. Cut from another club. And a whole other best shit. Yeah, I'm all thick, the color and text for it. Hit it talk, the wrist, wait. Look how raw you are. They know that I'm thick, boy. I deserve all of this. Strive for heaven first. I outlive all my boys. Stand here, die with when the trouble comes, yeah, Lord. When I heard for the back, you gon' do me back. Don't you gon' take my clap. Don't you gon' X me out. Don't you wanna have my back. I'm back. But the self just cat. Don't you gon' do me like that. You know what? Don't get back. You don't wrong. So wrong. You don't wrong. So wrong. Don't you want to X me out. I don't want to go get back. You don't wrong. So wrong. So wrong.
Shalom Yahweh Hashem Yahshua Barak Thumb to all the brothers. Yahweh Shemar Alathun Barasham Yahshai to all the sisters. I'm Officer 500 Zabadra of the I.S.U.P.K under Commanding General YAHANNA. We teach that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the Israelites, right? We've been teaching this since 1969. We started out 1 West, Harlem, New York, 125th Street. Right? Since 1969, we've been teaching that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the Israelites. Tonight, we're going to be going into, as you can see going across the screen, the Haitian Revolution. Right? I figured this is a time to since this is a history class, again, you're tuned into the Monday night history class. We kick it off every Monday night. We usually start 7 p.m. So BP time, you know how it goes, right? But we usually kick it off 7 p.m. So tonight we're going into the Haitian Revolution. This is a history class, and with everything that is going on with the tribe of Levi, right? Our Haitian brothers and sisters, I figured tonight would be a perfect time to go into the Haitian Revolution, right? So just like all blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans on the Western Hemisphere, the island of Hispaniola, right, which is basically that's what it used to be called, which is basically the Dominican Republic, the tribe of Simeon, and Haiti, the tribe of Levi, right? Two brothers, right, on the same island, and at the moment they're not agreeing with each other because they're in the world and they don't know their history, right? In the ISUPK, Levi and Simeon, they do not hate each other, right? There's no envy between them, right? It is illegal for Levi and Simeon to hate each other in the ISUPK, right? But we're going to talk about the tribe of Levi and how they led a slave revolt, right? Meaning our oppressor had the tribe of Levi in slavery, cutting sugarcane, right? And the tribe of Levi, they decided, listen, we're not going through that anymore, and we're going to revolt. So that's what they did. They revolted, and now we're going to go into that history of how this happened. So let me just put my phone on mute. Right. So we're going to be going into how that happened. For if you're watching right now, for the brothers and sisters watching right now, please hit that sign-in link, right? If you want to get into the school, you want credit in the school, if you believe that the knowledge that the I.S.U.P.K has is worth something in your life, right? Hit that sign-in link, get that credit for I.S.U.P.K benefits, right? There's nothing like the brotherhood and sisterhood in the UPK, right? When you get a chance, everybody go to Cross the Line Radio, right? Check out Black Watch News, Slovakia. Check out Black Watch News and Cross the Line Radio, the two YouTube channels, right? Commanding General Yohanna's radio show, that's his channel, Black Watch News, and Captain Tazariak and Captain Katazak, they run a radio show as well, Cross the Line Radio. They're gonna have images, Salakia, not images, but video. There's basically video of the heroics that the I.S.U.P.K did, right? To the tribe of Levi trapped at the border, starving, not without shelter, right? So you'll see that video, and you're gonna find out that was brotherhood, right? We got some supernatural heroes in the I.S.U.P.K. The generals, the captains, the officers, the troopers, and the sisters. They be putting in work as well, right? Don't ever think that everyone in the UPK they put their work in, right? And the men above me in the UPK, they went to extreme lengths to make sure that the tribe of Levi, so-called Haitians in the world, had food and the supplies that they could gather them, that they could give to them. Right? They gathered as much supplies as they could carry, as much supplies that they could fit into a caravan of vehicles, and went across into cartel country to give supplies to the tribe of Levi. And that's the brotherhood of I.S.U.P.K. Right? So if you're trying to gain brotherhood, you're trying to gain knowledge, if you want to find out what it's like to have a slice of heaven, have a slice of love, right? That's the best way to say it. If you want to find out how to be loved, how to love, how to keep the Lord's law, hit that sign in. Right? I'm gonna get off my soapbox on that for a second, right? But we're gonna go into the Haitian Revolution, right? Now the island of Haiti, right, which is it's a country, a state, right? They say it's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and that is terrible, right? The poorest country. Like they if you've been watching the news, an earthquake, an assassination, earthquakes after earthquakes, right? Not being able to farm the rice and sell the rice that they're able to make, right? That's what's happening to the tribe of Levi, right? Corruption. There's countless videos of so-called preachers being assassinated in Haiti, right? Haiti during its heights was during its heights was the richest colony in the Western Hemisphere. It was so rich they called it the pearl of the Santiques. I believe it's the pearl of the Santiques or the pearl of the Antiques, something like that, right? And that's when it was during its riches. And how it got now. Okay, so let's go back a little, right? During this time when they're saying it's at its height of riches, you have to understand that oppressors are in power, right? Now, how does the oppressor get rich? I'll give you a second to think of how an oppressor gets rich, right? So, how an oppressor gets rich is slavery, stealing, pillaging, rape, murder, violence, right? Because our oppressor is the father of deceit and violence, right? The father of murder, right? They our oppressors come out the womb wicked, and they're born thieves, right? So where are we going to next? The richest place in the Americas. It was rich from slaves, right? Human capital, right? Sugarcane. That's that's how the island, the oppressors who were in control of the island became rich because sugarcane was making sugar, right? With sugar you're able to make rum, right? Sugar was very popular. Like sugar. There's certain things that will never go out of style, right? Certain things are forever going to sell, right? Sugar is one of them. They will never stop selling sugar. Sugar will never go out of business unless there's no one to make sugar. But from when you can make sugar, it's going to be very popular. They put sugar in everything. You can't buy a food without sugar, right? So sugar cane. Haiti was the Slovakia. I keep calling it Haiti. It wasn't even called Haiti at this time, right? So during this time, it was Saint Domingo, right? So that this half of the island is called Saint Domingo, right? The British and the Slovakia. One second. let's get to it. Let me just go through right quick. Da-da-da-da-da. In 1697, right, the French and the Spanish stopped fighting and they split the island of Hispaniola, right? Splitting that island, the French took the west and the Spaniards they took the east, right? The French they called it Saint Domingo, right? That half of the island would later become known as what we know today as Haiti, right? So let's get back into where we were now, right? So they split the island. Da, 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 da. Sugarcane was how they got their money, right? Right. So quick little facts about sugarcane, right? Cutting sugarcane, the leaves are like saws. Right, one second, where the hell that part, right? Let's get to that right there. Cutting sugarcane, the leaves are like saws, right? So it's like you get little paper cuts. That's basically what's happening, right? You're getting little paper cuts. Hey, Officer Shaiwan, Yahweh Bashim Yashai Barakatah, right? The water for tuning in, right? So the leaves of the sugarcane are like little saws. It's like you're hacking away at sugarcane, right? And you're getting these little slices, these little scrapes, right? These little cuts. And when you would sweat because you're working in the heat, now keep in mind this is what the slaves doing. So you already know that the oppressors weren't making sure the slaves had any type of PPE, right? Personal protective equipment, right? Everything you learn, Salakia. All right, take all the women's and safety precautions you learned in 2021. Throw that all out the window, right? Just throw it out the window. The oppressor doesn't give a damn in 1703 if you had on safety equipment, safety gloves, if you even had a shirt on. So now brothers are most likely working in these fields, right? And when I say working, I say that very loosely. Like they're being slaves. Brothers are slaving in these fields, right? Barely with no personal protective equipment, no t-shirt, most likely it's hot, right? Not a lot of water to drink because the oppressor doesn't give a damn about if you drink water, right? You're getting these cuts from these saw-like leaves, these leaves that are damn near like saws. You're getting cut from them. You start to sweat. Sweat has salt in it, right? It starts to burn. It's literally like liquid salt in your wounds, right? Going to the root of the sugarcane plants, right? There are hot ants. What? Slocky. I got into my intervention here for a second, right? There are ants that bite, right? They're like red ants at the root, and the more you work, the more you're getting bit. So you're getting bit by red ants. You're getting cut by leaves. It's starting to burn, right? The ants are biting you, and you're scratching for days after. So that was the agony of brothers and sisters in these sugar cane plantations. Not to mention all the violence that the oppressor would do to you, right? So da, 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 right. So there was a brother to Saint Louverture, right? He basically led the first part of the large scale fighting during the revolution, right? As the stories go, there was before Toussaint got involved. There was okay, so we have to go a little further back, right? On this island during the slavery, the oppressor would be raping sisters, right? And the sisters that conceived, they would have babies, children for the oppressor. They would call them mixed race in the world, right? To us, if you have a baby for an oppressor, that is an oppressor, right? So the little oppressors are popping up. Salakia for saying it like that, right? But okay, so there's mixed race, so-called mixed race children, right? Basically, the sons and daughters of the slave master, they're being treated differently. There are some freed slaves that basically are treated differently from the slaves who are in captivity, right? They were basically calling them mixed race, and as they were treated differently, they got to they weren't treated equal, but they were treated differently, meaning they were able to operate in limited capacity, right? But they had to give reference to the oppressor, right? So if an oppressor was walking by, they had to stand up and acknowledge that oppressor, right? So now in the capital city, you have you have regular oppressors who are just a regular French European, and the so-called mixed race um, people of the island, right? The slave master's children. And the slave master's children aren't slaves, but they're not treated as equal. The oppressors start to look at them like, listen, they can't be treated as equal at all, right? So we're gonna go through this right quick. There was war in France, right? There was war in France, and it was a civil war, right? So a new government was coming in, and this is basically the French Revolution. This is in the summer of 1789, right? France and Persian mobs began to riot, right? Against the French. The French. This is called the French Revolution. France's new Congress gave some type of limited rights to other Europeans, right? So now this is something major that is happening. During this time as well, there is now just because things happen by boat and by water, it doesn't mean news didn't travel, right? During those times you get to a new place, you're telling all the stories of what's happening on where you're coming from and listening for all the stories of what's happening where you're going, right? There was no Google. You couldn't just type in on Google what, like today you could type in Britain lets in a lot of Afghans, right? And you're gonna get some Google link of how the British let Afghans into the country after the Taliban took over, right? You could type in the British government is deporting the generation of Windrush. You're gonna find out that the British government is deporting Benjamites who came to the island to help build up the economy when after World War II, right? I say that to say this that there's nobody who cares about blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans because on one hand they're deporting a people that helped build up the economy, that basically made all the money for Britain, right? And importing a people that don't care about Britain, right? And were openly burning British flags, right? So now what's happening in France in 1789, after the new France Revolution government, right, gave limited power, gave limited rights to other Europeans, the so-called mixed race people of the island of Saint Domingo are now petitioning for rights, right? So they're petitioning for rights. The Europeans or the French who are in power on the island of Saint Domingo, they turn around and say, listen, we can't have this, right? They didn't want this to happen. So for this not to happen, there was a standoff, right? So there's a standoff between Slovakia. There's a standoff between the so-called mixed race people of Saint Domingo, right, and the French. During this standoff, it's said that a man that they would call a voodoo priest, right? So before I go into this, a disclaimer: in the world, they're going to tell you that Haiti, the tribe of Levi, use voodoo to they're going to say dark magic, right? Voodoo or dark magic, witchcraft, devil worship, whatever you want to call it, to defeat the French. That's not what happened. The Most High was just with them at that point, right? He let them triumph over their enemies for a second, right? Because this is the Most High. The tribe of Levi is the priest of the Most High, right? Moses was a Levite, right? So the Most High was just with them for a second, but so they allege that a man that they would say the voodoo priest, he gathered a bunch of slaves, right? And I think it was about 100 slaves, right? Let's go through real quick. Okay, so we're just gonna keep going through, right? So he gathered a bunch of slaves, and there was a revolt, right? So we're gonna get into that revolt in a little bit, right? So during this revolt, there was large scale fighting, right? And the now these aren't rebels, right? An oppressor. If you go in YouTube the Haitian Revolution, the oppressor is gonna call the tribe of Levi rebels. They're not rebels. This is the tribe of Levi. They're saints, right? They're saints who are being murdered, who are being raped, who are being killed, right? So the average life expectancy of a slave was 3 years. We're gonna get a little bit more into that because the French, as cruel as they were, they had slavery down to a science, right? Just like everything our oppressor does, they have slavery down to a science. Where are we going? We'll come back to that, right? And slaves who didn't work were obviously murdered and treated horribly, right? So life expectancy of a slave in Saint Domingo was 3 years, right? They had it down to a science where you could give a man 50 lashes in 5 minutes, right? But because our oppressor is the most diabolical beast of the field, right? He knows that I can hurt you fast, but if I want to dominate you, I'm going to hurt you slowly. They give you 25 lashes, right? In 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 15 minutes, right? And that they would do over a period of an hour, right? God, 3 years. They had it down to a science, huh? Like straight up, and that's exactly how our oppressor is. Like, they have basketball down to a science. I kid you not. There is sports science. They have whole institutions that are dedicated to the so-called science of sports, from the way a brother arches his arm all the way back to shoot a jump shot, right? To 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 the massages and the ice baths, to the like that. That is all the oppressor's work, right? They make a science of everything, but they had slavery down to a science, right? If you didn't work, they would they would slowly whip you over a period of an hour, right? Cut limbs off, hang you, and peppering of wounds, right? The peppering of wounds is it's it's damn near throwing salt in the wound, but on the left hand side, not salt, pepper, right? Now, because some slaves were born free, they were born of slave masters. They didn't go through that harsh punishment, right? So, okay, so we're gonna go into Toussaint. Salakia, if I'm butchering his name. One of some Levite, get me right. Get me right on saying this brother's name properly, right? Da, 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 da. So when they describe Toussaint, they described him as a genius, right? He was determined and ambitious. He had ambition, right? He learned at a young age how to read and write, and because of his wit and the knowledge that he had, now this brother, he was a full Levite. He was straight up Levi, right? But he didn't go through slavery for long. He was a slave, but with his wit, he freed himself, right? Or so-called freed himself, right? And while learning to read and write, he was given a coach driving role, right? And had very good management skills, right? When they say that when he was free, he he was basically he was in charge of a few businesses and even had accounts overseas in America, right? There we go. Right. So let's go back to the mixed race. We're gonna go to 17. The year is 1789, right? So in the on the island of Saint Domingo, or that half of the island, there's about 40,000 French, right? 30,000 so-called mixed race people, who are basically just the French as well. Right? These are the sons and daughters of oppressors, right? They were freed, but they they weren't treated like slaves, and they operated as oppressors. They operated with oppressors, right? They were free but not equal. In 1791, mixed the mixed race, as we went into it, they put out a petition asking the governments for rights of citizenship, right? That enraged the so-called whites. It led to violence, right? The government, now here's the part that enraged the government. The government of France basically said, yes, you can have rights, but only if you're born of two free parents, right? You can have so-called equality. That led to the standoff. The oppressors on the island, they felt betrayed, right? They felt like, how is our government doing this to us? So that led to the standoff. This standoff happened August 1791, right? 1791, there was a standoff, right? They squared off. The so-called mixed race, who were the sons and daughters of the slave masters, and the whites, right? who are the oppressors, the French. They had a standoff. We go back into the so-called voodoo priest. He gathers slaves and he plans a revolt. Right on August 22nd, it was at nighttime. Right in the summer, 1,000 slaves attacked sugar plantations. Right, that thousand grew to over 20,000. Right, so from 1,000 to 20,000, and this is in a few weeks. Right, that's what happened. They decided to free themselves. They went from 1,000 to 20,000 in a few weeks. Right, I'm going to kick off some numbers for you. So, okay. 184 sugar plantations were burned. Right, 1,000 coffee farms were destroyed, and that's during the revolt. Right. So shameless plug. Commanding General YAHANNA. Give me 1 second. Let me get it. Commanding General YAHANNA. Black Watch News. Right. That's the new channel alert. 9 p.m. tonight. Monday night. Black Watch will be going off. Right. Live to air with the heavy hitters. They're gonna definitely be bringing out heavy stories. Right. And that should start just as this class is wrapping up, 9 o'clock. And if we're not wrapped up by then, you can always pause this, come back to it, and come back to it later. Basically, right? You could pause this, come back to it later, and go watch Black Watch. Right? Run up the likes and the comments, share it. Make sure to share it to all your social media platforms. Also, don't forget to hit the like button on this video, right? Like this video and share it to all platforms, right? We're breaking down the revolution of the tribe of Levi, right? The so-called Haitian Revolution. So where were we? 184 sugar plantations were burned, 1,000 coffee farms, right? The oppressors and the so-called mixed race, which is again the basically the Edomites. They fled to the capital city to watch the burning of plantations. Right now, Toussaint chooses his people, even though he had wealth. Right, but it basically took him some time to get there. Right, he chose his people, even though he had wealth. And this is what we need all blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to do, right? The rich of us. Slovakia. It's time to choose your people rather than your wealth. We have so many millionaires and billionaires that are among the Israelites, right? And Slovakia for my French. It took niggas without a lot from Texas to go into cartel country and feed the tribe of Levi, right? To the world, they might not have a lot, but to the brothers and sisters in the I.S.U.P.K, they have a lot because they were raised up under Commanding General YAHANNA. And he taught them not to compromise, right? To have no fear. That's what he's teaching us right now. Right? So while LeBron James is rich, he's supposed to be pouring all his money into blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. He's supposed to be donating to the I.S.U.P.K and paying his tithes to Commanding General YAHANNA because Commanding General YAHANNA is the one that's going to send his men that he's in charge of, right, to go feed the poor of us. He's going to tell his captains his generals to tell the captains, to tell the officers and the troopers, right? Go and feed your people. Commander General Yahanna is going to make sure that when a brother needs something, that he can get it, right? If brother is late on rent, he listen. If brother's down on his luck, well, there's a garrison, there's a place you can go and stay, right? The rich of us, instead of buying Lamborghinis and Rolexes and putting stupid diamonds in Rolexes, it's listen. You're supposed to give to your people. So, hey, Shalom, Aki, how about you, Shabbat? What's up?
Shalom Adwan Yabashim Shabakata.
How's it going? Everything to what?
Just finished work, twin for class.
God, I know how that goes, man. You want to tune in, huh?
Kana
All right.
Makan.
So we're basically breaking down the Haitian Revolution, right? And where were we? So Toussaint, he chooses people, but it takes him a little time to get there, right? During the beginning, he returned to his plantation to unfortunately protect his former slave masters, right? That is a battle that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans go through all the time, right? That's a heavy demon where you, because of what the slave master has given you, sometimes it makes it hard, right? Because you're in the world to choose, and this for a lot of us, a lot it goes. This happens to a lot of us. Sometimes when the oppressor gives you something, right, it might be hard for us to try to choose between righteousness and the gift that the oppressor is giving you, right? So, but that's what happened, right? During this time, the capital of Saint Domingo, right, where the slave masters ran, they're enduring, they're going through assault after assault from the so-called slaves who are seeking revenge, right, and seeking liberation, right? They don't want to be slaves no more. They're tired of the damn fire ants. They're tired of getting cut by sugarcane and sweating into cuts. They're tired of being whipped slowly whipped over a period of time and having their wounds peppered, right? I said it just like that. Their wounds were peppered, right? You had an open wound and some devil grinds up some pepper, right? Juices flowing in that pepper, and he rubs it into your wound. And how do you even get that out, right? Just imagine the damage that's causing to a brother's body, right? Now that might be hard to hear. We're not. I hope you hear it again, right? I'm gonna say it one more time. The slave master would beat brothers and sisters, if not cutting off their limbs, if not hanging them, right? He would pepper their wounds out there, put hot pepper in their wounds, right? Now, the slave master never gets to forget World War One, Two, 9/11, D-Day, whatever the hell he wants to remember, he's going to remember. Let's remember that the slave master beat the tribe of Levi and peppered their wounds. That's what I'm going to remember. I'm not going to forget that. Right? You should not forget that either. Right? The tribe of Levi in Toronto and Montreal, you should remember that the slave master beat your family and peppered their wounds. Right? That's what you should think of when you see Esau's daughter or his son walking down the street and they're trying to say hi to you. Remember what happened to your family. Right? So while this attack is happening, it's about a long 12 weeks of war. right? 3 months after the initial attack, the so-called voodoo priest, he's killed, right? I say so-called because it's not really confirmed if this man was a voodoo priest. And again, voodoo didn't help the tribe of Levi defeat the French, right? The voodoo had nothing to do with this, right? So he was killed and belittled. Salaki, I said belittled. He was killed and beheaded, right? In the autumn of 1791, right? We'll drop that for a second, right? So on the island of, we're gonna go into some more numbers. On the island of Hispaniola, right? Slaves outnumbered the slave masters 12-1, right? In December 1971, the French sent 10,000 reinforcement military to the island, right? Thousands of Haitian, thousands of Levites, they start to surrender, right? Because now they're being overpowered. The man who was leading them, he fell in the war. He's not there, so now there's no leader, right? When if your leader falls in battle, that will damn near kill anybody's inspiration, right? Just just look at any basketball game, right? For instance, the Lakers were on a playoff run last year, right? LeBron got injured. That was the fall of the Lakers. The Clippers were on a playoff run last year. Kawhi got injured. There was no more morale, right? So thousands of Levites, they start to surrender, right? So what happens now is because Toussaint he he goes up to the hills for a little bit. Like he retreats up to the hills for a little bit, right? And eventually he becomes he has some power, some rank amongst his brethren, right? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to choose one of your brothers to lead you. You can't ever choose an oppressor, right? So because he has some type of power, he has organizational skills, management skills. He's asked to write a settlement offer, right? In this settlement offer, it basically said majority of the Levite men who were in the revolt, they're going back to the plantation, right? And it's basically asking for better working conditions, like, which doesn't really make sense because you're a slave. Better working conditions means you're not a slave no more, right? How can you have better working conditions as a slave? That's sort of like what you see at on your slavery right now, right? On your slavery right now, they want you to go begging the oppressor to pay you an extra 50 cents, right? And that oppressor should be paying you $2,000 an hour, right? Matter of fact, I'll up it some more. That oppressor is not even supposed to be paying you, right? That oppressor is just supposed to be working for you for free because you were his slave, right? It's the oppressors have to go into captivity, right? Revelations 13 and 10. He who leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity, right? So Toussaint was asked to write basically a a surrender, right? Asking for better conditions, right? The the this didn't really work out, right? So while before this happened, we gotta go backwards just a little, right? There was a group of French who came onto the island. They were more liberal than the planters. They were from the New France. They were New France ministers, right? Because France was going through its own revolution. They came from France. They came urging the so-called, basically they came urging the whites, right, the slave masters, to accept the offer from the men who were fighting for freedom, just for better working conditions, right? Toussaint led this delegation of slave of see, I don't even want to just say slaves, right? He led a delegation of Levites to a meeting with the slave masters. Now, the slave masters, they just finished getting slaughtered for about like 12 weeks. They were not happy about that, right? The slave master's pride would not let him accept an offer from the Levites, right? Especially from what they would call an uppity slave, right? A That's how they viewed Toussaint, as a slave who who's uppity. He's not where he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be in the place of a slave, right? But he's leading a delegation to a meeting, and he has some type of rank amongst some of the French, right? They said no. They said they won't forgive. That brings me back to what I was talking about earlier. An oppressor is never going to forgive their enemy, right? But they want us to forgive everything they've done, right? 2 buildings were knocked down in New York. A lot of lives were lost, but they waged a 20-year war that they just lost. A 21-year war that they just lost. The Taliban is in power, right? There was no weapons of mass destruction, but that's another story for another class at another time, right? But our oppressor, he's a liar. He's going to lie about everything. But because the oppressor doesn't forget and doesn't forgive, they lost a 20-year war. But we're supposed to forget and forgive slavery. Right. Listen, there's no forgiving slavery. Christ is coming back to cut heads off. Right? He's coming back to put our oppressor in their place. Right? And then they're going to cleave to us. Right? But let's get more into what we're reading. We got a little bit more reading, and then we're going to go into some precepts. What is that? Yeah, we got a little more. Then we'll go into some precepts right quick. Right? All right, so another civil war breaks out in France, right? This is 1973. Oh, Slovakia, I jumped a little, right? So they said no, they wouldn't forget. Toussaint takes his delegation of Levites and he keeps it moving, right? In France, a civil war breaks out. 1793, a king is beheaded, and the revolution government takes over, right? So the revolution government, they take over, and this is the French Revolution now. They take over, and a king is beheaded. Slovakia, one moment. Slovakia. Right. So again, in 45 minutes, Black Watch News is gonna start. Take it in. It's about to start. Black Watch News. That's the new channel. 9 p.m. Monday nights. Black Watch News. 9 p.m. Wednesday nights and 9 p.m. Saturday nights. Black Watch News on YouTube. Right. You can always come back to us and finish up this video. Right. personally, I like to watch class videos twice, especially when it's well, every lesson is a good lesson, right? But if I'm trying to take notes, I'll listen to it once through while taking notes, and then I'll go back and watch it again, take extra notes, right? So what are we? Okay, so 1793, the French Revolution government, they behead the king. A new commissioner starts to arrive to the island of Saint Domingo, right? His name is Leja Philistine. Slovakia, right? Santonax, right? So we'll just call him Santonax. Who cares about the rest of his name? He's an oppressor. He's dead. He's gone. He's not coming back. Right? Put him in the dirt, right? But for the history lesson of it, Santonax, right? He created a council of representation, and it involved the sons of slaves, the sons of the slave masters, right? The so-called mixed race, and the French, right? Now, the French, they were upset with this because an oppressor feels he's supposed to have dominance over everything, right? He's not. Listen, you gave up your birthright. You don't get to have dominance over everything, right? You didn't care about it, but now because it's gone, you want to care about it, right? But because these oppressors viewed, here's the ironic part, these these so-called mixed race, right? People of the island, they were born from slave masters, right? They were born from slave masters. They're technically Edomites. The so-called whites, they don't understand that, right? The French, they didn't understand that. They were upset with him. Toussaint, he now becomes at this same time, he now becomes the leader of the the Levites who revolted, right? Who were seeking freedom from the oppression, from the murder, from the straight up diabolical torture of the French, right? Now, interestingly enough, he's a Levite, right? He was leading his people away from the oppressor, right? Moses did the same thing. Now, I'm not saying this brother is anything like Moses or was Moses, but it's just interesting that during this time a strong leader came out from the Levite tribe. Right? So he is the leader of the forces of ex-slaves who fought for their freedom. He sets his sights on Spain, right? Not as I'm going to take over Spain, but as I can make a partnership with this devil for the moment to get what I need, right? There's going to be a lesson learned in this, right? And if it is 2021 right now, I'm quite sure everybody knows you can't trust the oppressor. You should not go to him to make any type of pact, right? You should not trust that he's going to sell you a sword, right? He will sell you a sword. It's just going to be dull. It's going to be flimsy. One strike at another sword, it's going to crack, right? Because that's just how our oppressor is, right? So he sets his sight on Spain. He makes a deal with the Spanish forces, right? In June 1793, they start to give him guns and ammo, right? With this guns and ammo, he took over 3 cities in 8 months, right? What's happening next? Spain, France, and England, they continue to fight for the island. And this is something that we're seeing. Okay, so about last week we just wrapped up and I don't mean we, because the men in the ISUPK don't vote. We don't vote for an oppressor. We vote for a sure election, meaning our ballots are casted for Yahushua. So there's no casting any ballots for no oppressor. For no, we don't cast ballots at all, right? We want a sure election, so that's Yahushua. So France, Spain, and England, they're fighting for the island, which is basically fighting for the slaves. Who's going to control the slaves? That's every federal election. That's every municipal election, every provincial election that you see. It's really about who's going to control the slaves. Right? So Santanax, who's a commissioner, he decides to send men to France to appear before a council, right? And his argument and his whole reason for that is I'm pleading to give freedom to the slaves if they fight the Spanish and the English, right? These men will fight for us, so let's give them freedom. Continue, we're going to keep going some more. Right? Now, again, while Santanax is doing this, the French, the European slave masters on the island, they're angry, right? They're angry with their own government. They're actually fighting and rebelling against their government. They were rebels, right? Santanax goes to the council and he starts to talk like, listen, the people who are really going to fight for France are the slaves, while the slave masters, they're rebelling against France, right? So we gotta free up the slaves so they can help us fight the Spaniards and the English, right? The council, they decided that okay, they're gonna grant freedom to the tribe of Levi, right? They're also going to grant freedom of slavery in general throughout their empire, right? Now, word that there's an emancipation quickly reaches back to the island, right? Toussaint, he had men under him, right? One of those men was Jacques Dessalines, right? Jacques Dessalines was one of his men. He later picked up Toussaint's mantle to fight the French, right? Now, Toussaint and Dessalines, they basically joined up with the French and they pushed the Spaniards and the British out of Saint Domingo, right? Now that's basically what you see happening with Jake right now. You see Israelites joining the oppressor's army all the time, right? Thinking that the oppressor is going to take care of them, thinking that the oppressor is going to love them, when the oppressor doesn't love you. He doesn't love himself, right? He surely doesn't love his own people, right? So there's no way he's going to love a people that he looks at as less of a people. Right. There we go. So as he's doing this, Toussaint, he gets appointments in the French army, right? He becomes the brigadier general. So I butchered that one. You could tell I never went to cadets, right? But he becomes a general in the French army and then a governor of his region, right? In 1797, Toussaint basically forced Santanax off the island, right? He had no more use for him. He forced him off the island. At this same time, Napoleon is on the rise, right? As Santonax is Slovakia. As Toussaint is forcing the British off the island, Napoleon is taking power, right? As he takes power, Napoleon took power in France as like he set up a coup and he stormed in, took power, right? And he basically said he's the new French Revolution, right? Now he needs money, right? So one thing we're gonna talk about is the money, right? Because the island of Hispaniola, it was called the Pearl of the Saint Antilles, right? Because they were making so much money off sugar, right? As we were breaking down earlier, sugar is not going out of style. It's not going out of style for now. And no time soon, the sugar is gonna go out of style, right? That is gonna sell. So Napoleon, he needs to raise money. Only way to raise money is through the sugar cane, right? Because he has plans, he has sights on restoring New France back in the Americas, on the continent of America, of the North America and America, right? During the revolts, the men and who were fighting of Levi, they burned down. Basically, it was like the scorched earth. They were scorching the earth. They were burning down plantations, right? So there's no money there, right? So what Napoleon needs to do now is he needs to put the tribe of Levi back into slavery, right? As this is happening, Toussaint is realizing that listen, we need to build up our economy again. The only way to build up that economy at that time, right, was their greatest export, the sugar. He's trying to convince the tribe of Levi to listen. Now we need to work for ourselves and get back to producing the sugar so we can have an economy, right? So we could be that world power. They now listen. A slave, Slovakia. Imagine doing. I'll just ask my brother, right? Rocky Allah, I got a question for you. If you had to do a particular job all your life for free, right? When it's time to when you don't have to do it for free anymore, would you even want to consider doing that job to get paid if you had to do it all your life for free?
La, the one.
Right. See, that's exactly how the Levites felt. They cut sugar cane for they cut sugar cane over torture, right? Now they're free. They don't want to cut sugar cane, even if we're getting paid from it. They wanted to live off the land, right? Like any free man would do. Listen, I just want to grow some food so I can eat, so I can take care of my family, right? Toussaint knew that they needed economy. He he wasn't too he wasn't forcing them back into slavery, right? But he was letting them know, like, listen, we need to do this. Y'all need to do this, right? So as he's doing that, they're looking at him with the side eye, right? That's when you look at a brother with your side eye and you're looking at him like, like, nigga, are you serious right now? What the hell are you talking about? I gotta go back into the sugar cane, right? So he was losing favor with his people. At this same time, Napoleon, he's in power. He needs that money back. So he makes a new constitution, right? A new constitution for France. That constitution involves slavery, right? There's a colony that wasn't too far from the island of Hispaniola, right? And they were put back into slavery. Word quickly reached to the island, and people were getting they were getting not even to say anxious, but word got back to the island. Now it's like, yo, what the hell is going on? We might have to fight again, right? Toussaint makes a constitution, right? So we got the Haitian Constitution of 1801, right? It states the representatives of the colony of Saint Domingo gathered in Central Assembly have arrested and established the constitutional basis of the regime of the French colony of Saint Domingo as follows, right? This title of the territory, Article 1, Saint Domingo in its entire expanse and Samanana, Retort, and La Guanave, Les Camites, the Elavachi, Sawan, and Salaki. I'm butchering that French. I already know I'm doing that, right? And the other adjacent islands from the territory of a single colony, which is part of the French Empire, were ruled under particular laws, right? This constitution didn't do anything for our people, right? The constitution that Toussaint should have picked up and should have enforced was this one right here, right? He should have enforced the constitution that a Levite by the name of Moses enforced, right? That's the Torah, right? The law of the Lord. That was the constitution he was supposed to enforce. The Constitution of 1801 basically was still giving power to the oppressors, right? Even though they're claiming free status, they would still be under the law of the oppressor, right? Well, you're only supposed to be under the Most High's law, right? For example, the Most High's law says that homosexuality is an abomination. The law of the land says two men can do unnatural acts, right? That the Most High is against that. If you don't believe me, just go ask the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. It's that simple, right? The Most High says that's against his law. The people of Sodom and Gomorrah said, nah. Go ask them how it turned out. I'll wait, right? So while we wait for you to ask the people of Sodom and Gomorrah what happened to them disobeying the Most High's laws, right? We're going to continue with this class. Where were we? Toussaint makes the Haitian Constitution. Napoleon and Thomas Jefferson, they're thinking alike, and they're angry that a black man is making a constitution and acting like he has some type of right, acting like he is allowed to be free, right? So they set out to starve him out. This is something they've always done, right? Toussaint tries to show the devil that he's with France. Right? He's trying to show the devil that he's with France. So we're going to speed through this a little more, right? So he's trying to show the devil that he's with France, and that after all the fighting that they did against the Spaniards and the British, listen, he doesn't. Napoleon doesn't have to worry about that, right? That backfired. The oppressor doesn't like you. If you're Black, Hispanic, and Native American, there's something you have to hear. The oppressor does not like you. He does not love you. He wants to see you dead. He wants to see you in slavery. Right? Da, 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 da. Where were we? They tried to starve him out, right? In 1802, France's largest fleet start to arrive in the St. Domingo harbor, right? So now a war ensues, right? They fight under, led by Toussaint, the, 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 the French, led by Napoleon. They fight for 3 months, right? This conquest is led by one of Napoleon's family members, right? That family member was later killed in battle. In 1802, May 6th, Toussaint later surrenders, right? He's tricked into thinking he can retire with full honors, right? That's what the oppressor does. The oppressor, he he's a deceitful man. He's a devil, right? A deceiver. He's going to always deceive you. Later, like about a month later, um, Toussaint is told to come to a meeting with a French commander, right? He's arrested on conspiracy. He 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 gets on a ship towards France, right, to go stand trial, right? Word from the nearby colony is that Napoleon, this is happening at the same time, Napoleon set slavery up again, right? And that the nearby colony is going through slavery. The island of Saint Domingo erupts into a revolt again. This time, the revolt is led by Jacques Dessalines, right? Jacques Dessalines, he starts to fight against the French, right? This war goes on. This war, from beginning to end, it's about a total of 12 years, right? A 12-year fight that the tribe of Levi came out triumphant on, right? Or so we think, right? They got their independence, but because our oppressor is such a listen, our oppressor is a sore loser. That's the best way. I have to close my eyes for a second to think about it. What is the best way to describe our oppressor? And he is a sore loser. Like straight, like there's no way around it. That man's a sore loser. He's not having it, right? And we as we go further in, we're gonna explain how, right? So we got a little more of the story, and then we're gonna go into something else and start to read a few scriptures, right? 1802, da 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 da. Toussaint surrenders. He's tricked. He's charged with conspiracy. Haiti erupts again. The island of Saint Domingo erupts into a revolt again, right? The French are driven out. Mm, Okay, so 50,000 French are driven out from the island because of this fighting, right? The island of Saint Domingo, which is the Levite side of the island, is later renamed Haiti, right? It becomes the first Black Republic in the Western Hemisphere. In 1803, Toussaint he dies in a freezing cell in the mountains of France, right? And that's basically the fate of men who believe they can work with oppressors, right? Now this brother he Lord be with that brother, right? Hopefully he was born again in the truth, right? Hopefully he can be born again and he'll rise again and come into this truth, right? But he died 1803 in a freezing cell, right? Before, like while the Levites are becoming independent, right? He's dying in a cell. As a result of this, right? The French, the Spaniards, and the Americans, they set it out that that the Levites had to turn around and pay reparation. Right. The 12 years of fighting, right? The Levites, they got to declare their independence. France refused that. They said, listen, they can't have this, right? So French men were fleeing from the island. The Americans didn't want to let them in because what happens is when you let them in, they're gonna tell their story. Their story is we got our butts handed to us from Slovakia. We got our butts handed to us from the slaves, right? They don't want that to come out because there's slavery in America. They don't want the stories of a slave revolt in the Caribbean coming out into the Americas. That in the mind of the oppressor, he's thinking that's going to make a slave revolt happen in the Americas. So they didn't want French to even come over to the Americas while running from Haiti. They just wanted to go back home, right? So to stop that, what the French did was they got together with the Spaniards. They got together with the Americans, and also, if I'm not mistaken, the English as well, right? Napoleon and Jefferson. Napoleon, he got some ships. He filled them up with cannons, right? He got a large fleet of ships with cannons, warships. Basically, what you would call today as a U.S. carrier, right? And Slovakia, what's the proper wording for that? One moment, let me Google that.
Sorry, I had one.
God,
I had a scripture, if I could, about not trusting the oppressor.
God, you can bring it up.
So it would be John chapter 8, verse 44, which
God,
says, "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer
right,
from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because the truth is not there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it."
right. That's definitely heavy, right? That's definitely heavy because you can't trust the oppressor at all. And when you trust the oppressor, you're gonna end up Bill Cosby, right? You're gonna end up like O.J. Simpson. You're gonna end up dying alone somewhere in a cold cell because you thought the oppressor's way of life was the way to go, right? So what happens now? The French, they refuse to accept Haiti or the island of Saint Domingo as its own independent republic, right? They surround the island with basically what you would call today aircraft carriers, right? It's the big, the big ship with the jets on it that the army uses, right? They surround the island with that and basically say, we will let you be independent, but you got to pay us 150 million francs, right? That's what they're asking for in that day, right? The equivalent to what that is today would be billions of dollars, right? They're holding them for ransom. You could get your freedom if you pay us billions of dollars. Salakia, Trooper Baraki Allah, you want to guess how long it took to pay that off?
It's like I don't think they paid it off out of one.
I think it might be still going, or it might have just finished, right? But the suggested time frame of paying off that debt would have been 122 years,
Kind of con.
right? Can you imagine being in debt to someone 122 years?
A lot of one.
Right? That's crazy, right? So they made the tribe of Levi agree to a that's basically a king's ransom, right? That basically crippled Haiti. Not to mention, not to mention that Slovakia. I just lost my train of thought for a second. Not to mention, the U.S. played a heavy part of the. One second. Slovakia. Let's see what Officer Shaliwan said. Slovakia. Slovakia. General Mohammed said something about it after uh, putting them in that much debt. They wouldn't allow Haiti to sell sugar to other countries. Khan, right? That is definitely true, right? So they wouldn't allow Haiti to sell. They wouldn't allow Haiti to have an economy, right? So what happened is basically the oppressor, because he's a sore loser, he wouldn't allow Haiti to have an economy, and now the tribe of Levi, they're running from the ground, caving in on them, right? So let's go into some precepts right quick. Yeah, right. Let's go into some precepts right quick, right? Um, can you, Trooper Baraki Allah, can you get me Revelations 18:4?
Khan. Slovakia one said 18:4
Yeah, Khan. Revelations 18:4.
is the book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her mouth, that ye be not partakers
Salakia, can you read it one more time? You were kind of breaking up.
Khan, out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, that you receive not of her plagues.
Like you got to come out of the American culture, of the culture of the oppressor, so you don't be partakers of her plagues, right? That's something that Toussaint was going through, right? He was he seen the hurt and pain of his people, but it was hard for him to get out of the culture of the oppressor. That's why he made a constitution, right? Instead of picking up the holy scripts of his people, right? Instead of going through the law that his forefather Moses left for him, right? He's going to still be Salakia. He went through the plague after that, right? He died like a slave in a cell, right? Let's go to Malachi 2 verses 1, Brother Kashaf.
So like it's Malachi 2 and what?
Malachi 2 and 1, Salakia.
Kind of 1. And now, O priest, commandment is you.
Salakia, read it one more time.
Malachi chapter 2 verse 1. And now, O ye priests, this commandment is for you.
So this is about the tribe of Levi, right? This is about the priests. These are commandments for the priests. Read verse 2.
If you will not hear, if you will not lay it to heart, curse them already, because you do not lay it to heart.
So Salakia, you're breaking up. I'm not sure what's going on, but you're breaking up at the moment. Can you read verse 2 for me again?
Kind of what? Verse 2. If you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to heart, give glory unto my name, said the Lord of hosts. I will even send a curse upon you, and will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart.
Right. You have to lay the Most High's law to your heart, right? This is talking to the Levites because the Levites didn't lay the Most High's law to their hearts, right? They were going through the curses, right? They the Lord sent curses, right? It says, and will curse your blessings. The Levites had great blessings, right? That those blessings became cursed, and they had to go into the sugarcane fields to be cut by the sugarcane leaves, to have limbs cut off, to have their wounds peppered. Read verse 3.
Verse 3. Behold, I will corrupt your seed, and spread dung upon your faces,
Hold that
even the
right
dung of
there, right? Hold that right there. Look at all the violence happening to the tribe of Levi right now, right? All the lack of brotherhood that we're seeing, right? You're hearing, listen, for an island that doesn't make guns, you're hearing tons of gunshots, right? We're getting reports of all the violence that's happening, all the pro- oppression will make a wise man mad, right? You're either gonna get angry enough to put on all black and come into this school, or you're gonna go mad where you're gonna start to lose your mind and start to see your brother as your enemy, right? Keep reading.
even the dung of your solemn feasts, and one shall take you away with it.
Right? Keep reading.
Verse 4. And ye shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, said the Lord of hosts.
Right. Like the covenant is with Levi. Like the Levites were the priests, right? And Salakia. The Levite were the priests, and they were the executors of the Lord's judgment, right? Of that law, right? They were the ones who would operate the Sabbath service, right? The Levites would be the ones that would eat the showbread. Keep reading.
Verse 5. My covenant was with him of life and peace, and I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, for my name.
Read that one more time.
Verse 5. My covenant was with him of life and peace, and I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name.
Right. Like when you have when you're keeping the Most High's law, you're living a peaceful life, right? The we were given this covenant so we would have a peaceful life, right? When you keep the law, that means you fear the Most High. And that's what this is talking about. Keep reading verse 6.
Verse 6. The law of the truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked
Right,
with me in
like
peace.
hold that right there, right? The law of read that one more time, actually, Salakia.
Khan Khan. This Malachi chapter 2, verse 6. The law of the truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips.
Right, the law of the truth, right? The law is the truth. That is the truth of the Most High, right? It was in Levi's mouth, right? It was in the priest's mouth, and there was no iniquity then, right? Keep reading.
He walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from iniquity.
And that was what the priests did. They walked with the Most High. They did the righteous acts of the Most High and turned many people away from committing those acts. Because listen, the Levi would tell you to keep the law. You didn't keep the law, you would be in judgment of the law, and the Levite would show you why you were supposed to keep the law. Right? Meaning, if that law said you were to be stoned, some Levite would take some like a few Levite priests would take you outside of the city and stone you. Right? A brother would see that, and listen, that brother didn't steal no more. Right? A man would see a rapist get put to death, and there would be no more rapists in that part of the land for sure. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 7. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth, for
Right,
he is the
like,
messenger of the
hold
Lord.
that right there. A priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth. Right? The men in the UPK, they speak knowledge. Right? You have Salakia, Officer Yatazar. He spoke knowledge for 6 hours in cartel country. Right? On the phone for 6 hours, speaking knowledge, giving directions to the tribe of Levi in their time of need. Keep reading.
For he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts.
Right, like the Levites are the messenger of the Lord of hosts. That's their position. They're not supposed to be in sugar cane. They're not pick Salakia. They're not supposed to be in sugar cane plantations cutting that sugar cane, getting eaten alive by fire ants. Right? They're not supposed to be in the border of Mexico and cartel country trying to survive the elements under a bridge. Keep reading.
Verse 8. But ye are departed out of the way. Ye have caused many to stumble at the law. Ye have
Read that
corrupted
one
the
more
covenant
time.
of Levi. Kanawakan. Verse 8. But ye are departed out of the way. Ye have caused many to stumble at the law. Ye have corrupted the covenant of Levi, said the Lord of hosts.
Right. Now we're looking at the fall of Levi. We're looking at the result of not taking that covenant serious, not taking your priesthood serious, right? You're looking at a people who are fallen, right? But the Lord's gonna make sure they pick them back up, right? Because there was a bunch of brothers and sisters who heard that truth. Those seeds were planted, right? The water of the word is gonna wash them, and they're gonna be baptized in the fire, right? Not water like dip yourself in a pool like the Christian church, but that word is water. They see brothers who they don't know, who they've never seen before, come in, try to feed them, try to make sure they're good, right? Salakia, da, 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 da. So what happens is you're not supposed to be corrupt, right? You're not supposed to be corrupt. Being corrupt, you're gonna go through slavery. Being corrupt, you're going through oppression. Being corrupt leaves you in under some bridge in Montreal, under some bridge in Mexico, trying to survive, right? Keep reading.
Verse 9. Therefore I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in my law in the law.
Right, like now, what's happening is you're finding out because the tribe of Levi content, didn't because they didn't keep their ways, keep to the ways of the Most High, and keep to the spirit of the Most High. Now Levites are they're contemptible, meaning, right? Salakia. Let's get the definition of contemptible, right? Contemptible. Let's go for that definition. Deserving contempt, despicable, right? A display of contemptible cowardice, right? Despicable cowardice, right? So let's read that one more time.
Verse 9. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people.
Hold that right there, right? So he's made them despicable before all the people. Now all the people are seeing the fall of Levi and seeing what it's like to be a Levite who doesn't keep the Most High's law, right? He doesn't know their culture. He doesn't know that they're supposed to be the priests of the Most High, right? The whole world looks at them and is like, listen, they're just something disgusting, and it's sad. It's sad to see our brothers and sisters at the bottom how they are right now, right? But something that warmed my heart, that made me feel like, listen, everything that we say and and all the actions we do was seeing ISUPK Texas go into cartel country and feed our brothers and sisters. Right? They were some real supernatural heroes. Right? So we're gonna drop that. Let's go to we'll go to Second Chronicles 7:14.
Kanawakan. This is the book of Second Chronicles, chapter 7, verse 14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land.
Right. So that's what the Most High is telling the tribe of Levi to do. Right. Let's read it one more time from the top.
Second Chronicles, chapter 7, verse 14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land.
Right. So the people called from by the Most High's name, that's Israel. Right. Specifically tonight, we're speaking on the tribe of Levi. Right. Levite, lawyer in the Hebrew. Right. You got to go to the Most High humble. Right. Listen, you can't think that you can eat all the shrimp and lobster you want. Listen, that's not helping you. All that's doing is more earthquakes in your life. Right. More earthquakes, more oppression in your land, right? You gotta seek the Most High's face, meaning seek His ways, right? Meaning find out what He wants you to do. Keep His law. Turn from your wicked ways. Stop all the sins that you're doing, right? Listen, there's a long list of sins Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are doing it. If it's called sin, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are doing it, and you're going through that oppression because of it. Right? Let's read from wicked ways.
And seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. Then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin
Wait,
and will
hold
heal
that
their
right
land.
there, right? You gotta turn from your wicked ways so the Most High can hear your cries from heaven. Right? That's what you have to do. Turn from your wicked ways. Keep reading.
Then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land.
Meaning, look at the devastation going on in Haiti right now. Earthquakes. That land is not healed. Right? Why? Because there's too much sin, too much bloodshed in the land. Right? It's like there's no one's keeping the high holy days over there. Right? So the land is not here. The land is going through it right now. Right? The land is going through it so much that the tribe of Levi had to run from the land, go into South America to find themselves at the border of Texas and Mexico. Let's see if we can get some more. Got a couple more before it's too late. So not here. You know what? No, I'm gonna put that. Isaiah 1. Time. Let's read that one. This is gonna perfectly describe what the tribe of Levi is running from. Right? Let's get Isaiah 1:7.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 1, verse 7. Your country is desolate, your cities are burnt with fire, your land strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate as overthrown by strangers.
Hold that. We're gonna read it one more time. Let's get the definition from the desolate. Deserted of people and in a state of bleak and dismal emptiness. Right? Meaning there's an exodus in Haiti right now. People are running from it. Read it one more time.
Salakia. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 7. Your country is desolate. Your cities are burnt with fire. Your
Hold
land,
that right there. That's exactly what's happening in Haiti right now. Earthquakes and cities being burnt with fire. The guns are going off. There's black smoke. It looks like a war zone. It's already been looking like a war zone because they had to pay 150 million francs for freeing themselves. That was the cost of their freedom, 150 million francs. Right? Keep reading.
your land, strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate as overthrown by strangers.
Right. Now check this out. This is on two folds. It's been overthrown by strangers. The American government's been putting presidents in Haiti for years. Right? The land of Israel has, and this applies to not just Levi, but all of Israel. The land of Israel has oppressors in it, strangers, a people that is not a people, and that's happening in Haiti as well. Pretty soon, we're gonna see Americans start to go in and develop that place so they could take it over fully. Now that it's fully destroyed, the people are fully destroyed and they vacated it. Right? And that's not saying everybody's vacated it, but people are leaving. We got one more. Time for one more. Yeah, we'll get one more. We'll get a couple more real quick. Hey, can I get Deuteronomy 28 and 54? Right. This
Kanawakan.
this is this is another thing that's happening amongst Levi.
This is Deuteronomy 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and towards the remnant of his children which he shall leave.
Right, right. So the man that's tender among you, right, and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother. Why are there Levite bloods in Montreal? Right? Why are there Levites claiming blood and crypt in Montreal? You don't know nothing about that. That's in California. What the hell are you doing? And who's your enemy? Your brother? You're making your brother your enemy while you're in a party with some Edomite daughter who cannot compare to the baddest Levite sister you could find, right? To any Levite sister you could find, that Edomite daughter cannot compare to. But you're deciding to kill your brother over what? Let's get one more. What do we got? Salaki. You know what? We'll just finish it off with let's jump down to 68, right? And we probably should have started the class with this, right? Because the Levites got into the island of Hispaniola by cargo slavery, right? So we're gonna show you that that is a curse in the Bible for the Israelites who didn't keep the Most High's laws. We'll get Deuteronomy
Deuteronomy,
28:68.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and they shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
Car, car, right? So this is slavery in the Bible. Right. We're gonna read it from the top, and we're gonna break it down line for line for you, right? So we can make it or you're gonna make it crystal clear. So that I was thinking of that statement, right? And that's something. The same Kemet community who did not lift a finger to help the Levites in Mexico, right? They like to say things like, "Let me make it crystal clear for you, family." So, oh man! All right, so we're gonna break this down line for line real quick, right? Let's read it again from the top. And Baba Kasha, stop at the commas.
Comma 1. Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
Right. So blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you were already in Egypt. You were serving your slavery there. Long before you served your slavery in the Americas and in Europe, you served a slavery in Egypt. The word Egypt is Greek for house of bondage. Right? Keep reading.
With ships.
So you're going to go into bondage again with ships. Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans, how did you get all over the world? Right? Tribe of Levi, Loya, and Lehivi, how did you get onto the island of Haiti? What did it say?
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
With ships. That's how you got there. Keep reading.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee.
Keep going.
Thou shalt see it no more again.
You're not going to see your homeland again. Keep going.
And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen,
You would be
and
sold
no
in the
man shall buy
Caribbean,
you.
in the Americas, in Europe for slave men and slave women to cut sugar cane, to get cut by sugarcane leaves and eaten alive by red ants. And when you tried to fight or run away, they would whip you and pepper your wounds. Keep reading. Was that it? And no man. So I can read that last part one more time.
And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no
Keep
man shall
reading.
buy you.
No filthy Hamite, no stinking African came and tried to free you up. Listen, man. You think Africa's poor? Nigeria has millions, if not billions. They have a whole diamond industry. Them Africans didn't come over to free you up not once. They never came over to your community and said, "Listen, we have money, right?" They never said, "We're gonna help you build. You're our brother." They actually look at us and tell us that we don't have the same blood. Listen, there's a boxer, there's a UFC fighter who fought a Hamite, right? And during the press conference, the Hamite told him that they don't have the same blood. He's not black American. He's 100% African. Right? Why are you loving them? They're not your people. We're Shemites. They're Hamites. We were given a covenant. We were given a covenant. They were given nothing. Right? So with that said, that's going to conclude our history class for tonight, the Haitian Revolution. Right? I'm going to quickly read the security announcements, and then we're going to salute out. ISUPK security announcements. We have the I.S.U.P.K started out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rules for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shove themselves in the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithe, which is the commandment, Numbers 18:21, Malachi 3, verses 8 to 10. Right? Ma'ashara, which means tenth in Hebrew, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund. We will offer for priests, not mandatory, whatsoever amount you would like. Up and coming holy convocation. Right now we are in the feast of Salakia. We're in the feast of tabernacles, and it is Salakia. It's coming to an end. I'm quite sure it's coming to an end tomorrow night. Check with your camp leaders, right, to confirm. Reminder to check www.isupk.com or blackwatch.news, right, for any up and coming events or information. If anybody wants to be in the school, a trooper in the school, start wearing all black boots, shirts, pants, headband, and stuff. With that said, I imagine we're going to give a courtesy salute to the brothers and a courtesy salute to the sisters. Man of Israel, I imagine Shabbat. I imagine Barak. Yahweh Shemir Shadrach the Cloud. Yadinatah. We're going to give a courtesy salute to the sisters, men of Israel, Imagine Shabbat. Imagine Barak. Yahweh Shema Alafem Ba'ashem Yahashai. Yadinatah. Class dismissed.